All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm excited to do this short screen recording to give you an introduction to participatory action research and explain one of the main projects of this class, which is a participatory action research project. So you all know about restorative practices, but what is PAR? Some of you might be very experienced in PAR. You might have more experience than I do. But for those of you who are not sure what participatory action research is, I wanted to provide a quick explanation. So, as you know, in traditional research, a lot of times scientists or researchers will do research, conduct a study, and they might just write a journal article, a report to share their findings, right? But in action research, there's always going to be some kind of action that is taken as part of the research process. And the difference between action research and participatory action research is that in traditional action research, the researchers might be folks who aren't really involved in or affected by the issue that they're researching. But in participatory action research, one of the defining qualities of it is that the people conducting the research are those who are affected by the issue they're researching. And as you see in the third bullet here, PAR can begin with an issue, a concern, or even with an action idea. So in our course, you all will be engaging in participatory action research on the big question of this course, which is how does a school begin or grow or deepen their restorative work? So I want to tell you a few PAR stories. So I first learned about PAR from students. So what you'll see here is I started teaching in 1997, and I taught 8th grade history for 3 years in Arlington, Massachusetts. So during my 3rd year of teaching, which was the 1999 to 2000 school year, students who had been in my first cohort when they were 8th graders were then 10th graders at Arlington High School. So during that year, the students reached out to me because they had heard and learned about the MCAS test, and they were going to be the first cohort to be required to take the test in order to graduate. And the students had a lot of concerns. They felt like standardized testing has a history of bias, and standardized testing has often been used to say that some people are more intelligent than other people. And they were concerned that students should not be denied a high school diploma based on the results of one test. So what the students and I did is we did research on these issues related to standardized testing. We then took action. So the students went to the school committee in Arlington, went to the superintendent in Arlington. They wrote articles. They went to the state board of school committees, and they actually got that state board to agree to adopt a resolution that the MCAS should not be used in a punitive way against students. And as you can see here from this article headline, you see me with my barrette in my hair, but you can see that the students boycotted the MCAS test and the district suspended 25 of them. And of course we see that the rest is history in terms of how the MCAS has played a huge role in education since then, but it still was a very powerful learning experience for the students and a powerful experience for them to really deeply understand the issues related to standardized testing and to understand their power to make a difference. So different PAR approaches. So sometimes you can begin with an action in mind, and then the research would be to make sure that action reflects what the community wants and needs. So to give you an example of that, when I was a director of instruction at the Hernandez School, the students wrote a letter to the principal saying that they wanted to renovate the playground because the playground had become dangerous and had fallen into disrepair, and it just was not fun and engaging for them anymore. So we actually did a whole 7th grade course where the whole course was the students doing research into playground design. The 7th graders took 2nd graders and 3rd graders and 4th graders to visit different playgrounds around the Boston area, and they really tried to dig into like, what do young people enjoy about playgrounds? What should we incorporate into our playground design? And then they also then, as 8th graders, ended up doing a lot of fundraising and eventually got the city to agree to renovate the playground. Or you can begin with a question or an issue that's important and then do the research, and based on what you find, you decide what possible actions are. So that's what we're going to be doing in this course. Is we're beginning with this general question of how does a school begin, grow, and deepen restorative work? And we're not completely sure of what the actions will be. We definitely will share what we learn. That's one action, is we'll share what we learn with our schools and with the district. But beyond that, we're going to see what we find in our research. And then always we want to make sure we're researching the issue deeply by talking with people involved, and especially those who are negatively affected. So to give you an example of what that means with our project is the issue of restorative practices. Some of the people who are most negatively affected by either the absence of restorative practices or by the presence of punitive approaches to discipline would be children and young people who have been punished a lot in school, right? So we'd want to be making sure that the voices and the ideas of those children and young people are part of this project. And then in terms of action, sometimes you're saying this is something we should start, or this is something we should stop, or we might even create something, right? Or it could be a combination of all three of these things. So why are we engaging in PAR? So all of us are in this course because we're trying to grow restorative practices in our classroom, in our work with young people, in our schools, and in our district. But how do you actually do that? There's not one single correct path, but many schools and many districts are engaging in this work. So what can we learn from their experiences? And I love this Antonio Machado quote. He says, "Wanderer, your footsteps are the road, and nothing more. Wanderer, there is no road. The road is made by walking." All right, so what I would love for you to do now is actually read this second PAR example, which was when I was teaching at Brighton High School. And this was students who I had in 2005, and they were concerned about the practice that a lot of Boston public high schools had back then, which was to lock the doors and not let students in after a certain time. And at Brighton High at the time, it was 8 o'clock. So if students showed up after that, they would be met with a locked door. So you're going to read that case study, and then there's going to be some questions in Edpuzzle. So I'm really excited to work with you on this PAR project, and it will all evolve as we work on this together.